Hey YouTube, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here's my review for UFC on FX Johnson versus McCall. Alrighty, folks. Well, in my opinion, we saw an impressive main event, a decent main card, and a shitty preliminary card, and some shitty officiating, and some judges' decisions. So, what did you guys think of the night overall? In my opinion, when you consider everything, it's kind of forgettable for me, and the reason I'll remember this card more is for the bad reasons. And I'll get to that very soon. But let's start off at the top of the card with that main event between Demetrious Johnson and Ian McCall in the flyweight semifinal tournament. First off, shout out goes to Demetrious Johnson for actually improving, in terms of skill set, not in terms of athletic ability. Sure, his physique this time around did beat Ian McCall, but his game plan and his know-how just improved as well. Rather impressive victory for Demetrious Johnson, in my opinion. If Ian McCall would try to take Demetrious Johnson down, Demetrious Johnson would either pivot to the right or left, or if he did get taken down, he would be able to get back up and strike right after they break. So I thought that was rather impressive because a lot of Demetrious' cleaner strikes were upon the break. So yeah, Demetrious' transition work was really impressive in this fight. I was really happy that I got to see it out of him because I really thought he plateaued as a fighter. I did say that in my prediction video. I do like the guy, and I like to see fighters I like improve. So solid win for Demetrious Johnson. That was just awesome. His athletic ability got the better of Ian McCall this time because he was ready to go for 5 rounds for sure. You know what I'm saying? Ian McCall kind of looked physically broken in the 3rd round after he did get the 2nd. However, Demetrious Johnson was just a handful of this fight, and I thought that Demetrious would be able to do something like this in the first fight, but for like all 5 rounds, of course, he was only able to do it for 2, and that was because he had a hard time getting down to 125. So yeah, this time he came prepared in terms of his physique, and he was able to execute. So what can I say? His speed on the feet when it was just standing, too much for McCall to handle. McCall would try to either counterpunch or, just try to time a haymaker or some shit like that. And it was not working, of course, because Demetrious was just in and out too fast. And whenever Demetrious tried to get takedowns off, Ian McCall would have a hard time getting back up to his feet. And he wasn't doing anything rather offensive right after that. He would try to time a takedown right after that instead of get some strikes in off the break. And that's something, again, Demetrious did very well in this fight, which is one of the things that impressed me most. And the fact that he was able to do it for, X amount of minutes. He didn't appear tired for me come the 3rd round. Ian McCall did. I'm not going to say Ian McCall gassed or anything, like gassed hard, but it's just to keep up with Demetrious Johnson in the 1st or 2nd round is something, but when the guy still has energy, and you're still trying to keep up with him in the 3rd round, that's going to be hard as shit. So Ian McCall kind of got physically broken, in my opinion, and maybe mentally, because Demetrious was able to execute in that 3rd round, and I could tell it was getting to Ian McCall. So yeah, what can I say? Overall, an awesome performance from Demetrious Johnson, if you ask me. What's next for him? Of course, Joseph Benavidez. How does he beat Benavidez? Not get caught in a guillotine, number 1. Of course, Demetrious, like I said earlier, I praise his transition ability. I think that fight's going to be awesome in transition. Joseph Benavidez, of course, training with Team Alpha Male. Those guys have transitions for days. Uriah Faber can catch you in the guillotine if he's just near you in the clinch. You know what I'm saying? And that could be a possibility for Demetrious Johnson. I think we're going to see some 6 sub attempts from Joseph Benavidez, and we're going to see a lot of strikes off the break. It should be a high, fast-paced fight. So yeah, I really can't wait for that one. I really don't know who wins. I think they're really evenly matched. As for Ian McCall, what's next for him? Yasuhiro Rushitani, I wouldn't mind. That fight hasn't happened yet. Those 2 guys are still, ranked, I believe, top 5 in the flyweight division. Ian McCall is probably going to be ranked 3rd after this shit. But yeah, he's still a great fighter. I'd still like to see him fight in UFC. I'd like to see him actually get a UFC victory, because I do like the guy. And yeah, what can I say? Again, I guess that's it. Demetrious Johnson for the win. Next up, let's move on to that welterweight co-main event between Eric Silva and Charlie Brenneman. A few people were actually picking Charlie Brenneman because they thought his wrestling ability and his ability to keep it on the ground was better than Eric Silva's hips, athleticism, and well-roundedness. I was one to differ, and I think most people were. Eric Silva is just too athletic. He trains with a better camp now. Trains really hard. Big guy. Yeah, right. Charlie Brennan is going to keep this guy down. Hell no. This is not Rick's story, where if you put Rick's story on his back, Rick Story does not have the jujitsu to get back up onto his feet, or his his hips, in my opinion, just aren't as good as Eric Silva. Eric Silva he just looks like a freak athlete, and he displayed that against Charlie Brenneman here. No matter what, Charlie would try to impose his wrestling game plan, and Eric Silva would just, if he had to struggle to get back up to his feet, he would. But it didn't look like it was hard for him. You know what I mean? I think that Eric Silva, if he displayed better takedown defense in the future, I think he could be someone. He'd be someone to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want to fuck with him. I mean, Eric Silva. If he were to pivot more and maybe just be able to stuff takedowns with like sprawls better, that would be sick. But right now he's still raw. So I'd like to see him versus another raw opponent, maybe John Hathaway. Again, I called for that fight before. Brazil's best welterweight prospect versus Britain's. I think that'd be sick. But yeah, the way he took Charlie Brenneman's back in this fight was rather easy. It was kind of gift wrap from Brenneman. Brenneman, in my opinion, is still just a wrestler, and he needs to improve elsewhere. I know he's trying to. I like his attitude, but I'm not sure if he can. I think we've seen him plateau over the past 2-3 bouts because wrestling's only been his only offense. So yeah, I'd like to see more improvement out of Brenneman. What's next for him? I don't know, but again, congrats to Eric Silva. Alrighty, folks, now let's move on to that welterweight bout between Mike Pyle and Josh Neer. Mike Pyle for the win on defeat. What the hell? I thought Mike Pyle would for sure win via wrestling only, but yeah, his striking's really developing if he's actually, knocking Josh Neer out with one punch. That was rather impressive. Josh Neer, really tough guy. I believe he's only been stopped with strikes once in his career. Kind of comes in as he is in brawl mode, and of course got caught with that right and got put out cold. He went, body straight like that to the mat. He was definitely out. So Mike Pyle with a one-punch knockout, it's a good look. Of course, Mike Pyle was out wrestling him up until then. We saw that coming. But he somehow got rocked when Josh Neer was able to get back up to his feet. And I really don't recall what he got rocked by. But he was kind of stumbling and shit. And Josh Neer took over via brawl mode. And Mike Pyle caught him with that punch. So solid win for Mike Pyle. Alright, now let's move on to that bantamweight bout that kicked us off the main card between Eddie Wineland and Scott Jorgensen. And holy crap, I kind of regret picking Scott Jorgensen in this bout because I just had a feeling that Eddie Wineland could have pulled this off, especially if I had an idea of what kind of mentality Scott Jorgensen would have came in there with. And thinking back on it, it's just like Scott Jorgensen not fully committing to his takedowns will lose to Eddie Wineland. Eddie Wineland's takedown defense is pretty good. He trains with some good wrestlers in Duneland Valley Tudo, so watching him stuff half-hearted takedown attempts against Scott Jorgensen and being able to sprawl and brawl against him really isn't surprising when I think back on it. So solid win for Eddie Wineland. He got it done via KO in the second round, something that no one's done against Scott Jorgensen. So yeah, that's rather impressive. Nice win for Eddie Wineland. I'd like to see him versus Brad Pickett. I think that'd be rather impressive. Sprawl and brawl Eddie Wineland versus Brad Pickett, who's fairly well rounded no matter where it goes. So look for a fight of the night there if that fight ever happens. As for Scott Jorgensen, he has to stick to just wrestling only against some of these guys because he's not knocking out anyone on the feet unless it's like, Ken Stone or some shit like that, some regional guy. So yeah, Scott Jorgensen, very good wrestler, should just stick to that. He could have turned this into a wrestling match and he didn't. I'm just saying that if Scott Jorgensen came in there with a Charlie Brenneman or Matt Grice kind of game plan and just went for takedowns, then yeah, I thought he would have won because Eddie Wineland doesn't have the timing to sidestep or stuff the takedown. Just saying. Now let's move on to the preliminary card and just run through it really fast, starting with Mike Pierce and Carlos Eduardo Rocha. First off, that guy who gave it 30-27, Carlos Eduardo Rocha, is probably the same guy who gave it 30-27 for him against Jake Ellenberger. Yeah, that guy should neck himself. Mike Pierce for the win, wrestling only. Seth Baczynski versus Lance Benoist. Weird fight because of that one idiot ref who fucking didn't call 2 illegal knees. What the hell? That's messed up. I don't even know what to say, and I'm not sure if I feel like talking about this fight. Baczynski actually got that via split decision. Since those illegal knees weren't called, I believe I scored it in favor for Benoist. So yeah, if that fight was, officiated correctly in terms of the scorecards, I think, Baczynski would have won. and he won anyway. So yeah, that's weird. Next up, Matt Grice versus Leonard Garcia. You know, now we're mentioning Leonard Garcia. We're thinking maybe he robbed someone again. He didn't. Matt Grice came in there and did what he was supposed to do. You know, it doesn't take a genius to calculate this fight in terms of scorecards. 30-27 across the board. Matt Grice came in there wrestling only, some ground and pound. Leonard Garcia really doesn't have any skills besides, you know, haymakers and shit. He looks like he's doing freestyle swimming when he's fucking punching and shit. That's really all he has to offer in MMA. Really, like Scott Ferrazzo in the featherweight division, if you ask me. I don't know. He's just not that good. I can't believe someone actually said he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm pretty sure that's a fact, which is sad. So yeah, I don't know what they do with him. Solid win for Matt Grice though. Dustin Peg versus Jared Papazian. I didn't know Dustin Peg had you know, submission game like that. You know, I had this impression looking at his record that he'd kind of submit guys after he, you know, maybe hurt him on the feet, because I know he's a solid striker. However, you know, he just took Jared Papazian's back rather easily. Yeah, had some solid submission game there. He had the body triangle going, and yeah, rear naked choke. Jared Papazian, I know he trains under, I can't remember who he trains under, but someone very good. But yeah, he has to train harder. Just saying. Tim Means versus Justin Salas in lightweight. Tim Means knows how to use his length effectively, apparently. Justin Salas, you know, he looked all right in terms of trying to close the distance. He was going after it, but, you know, you're not going to time a takedown off against Tim Means because you're probably going to get caught in a knee. But if you're just going after Tim Means, trying to get a takedown like Justin Salas was, I thought that was the best way to beat him. And Tim Means would still pivot and, you know, put him in the plum and get knees off and stuff. It's rather impressive by Tim Means, and they were hitting, they were connecting, and Tim Means was in a position to TKO him, finish him off with more punches, so solid win for Tim Means. Next up, Buddy Roberts versus Kyle Bagalesh, middleweight jiu-jitsu guy with all-right power versus well-rounded regional circuit-looking kind of fighter in Buddy Roberts. However, Buddy Roberts has some athleticism, and he's a student of the game, like he said, so he's trying to improve with every fight, and he looked rather impressive against Kyle Magalesh here. You know, not getting caught in any subs once they hit the ground, and being able to get back up on feet. But before that, you know, just, you know, sprawling, brawling. So, solid win for Buddy Roberts. Henry Martinez versus Bernardo Magalhães, jiu-jitsu guy versus brawler in this fight as well. But Martinez looking more raw as a brawler in this fight, especially, you know, rounds 1 and 2, and then he really didn't do much in round 3. But of course, that raw brawling in round 1 and 2, you know, was getting it done. Bernardo Magalhães with his shitty jab was taking over the fight come near the end of second round. So yeah, he took the third round as well. But of course, you know, it just wasn't enough because his shitty takedowns just, you know, pretty much gave it to Henry Martinez because Henry Martinez looked, you know, rather impressive trying to stuff them. So, yeah, he showed some decent hips, but I still don't think he's that good of a fighter. Next up, Sean Pearson versus Jake Hecht. Yeah, Jake Hecht is horrible. He got decision by Sean Pearson, which leads me to the belief that he couldn't take Sean Pearson down. I didn't watch this fight, guys, so if he couldn't take Sean Pearson down, what else can he do? Because he really has no other skills from what I've seen of him. So cut Jake Hecht. Decent win from Sean Pearson. And there it is, guys. I think that about does it for me in terms of my review for UFC on FX, Johnson versus McCall. I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and I hope you guys enjoyed the event, at least the good parts of it, because again, I am not satisfied with it, but hey, it was a free card, it is free MMA, so I expect regional circuit shit out of it, and that's what we got. What can I say? Hopefully we have a better free card come the next one, which is in 2 weeks, I believe. So, you know, stay tuned for that, and yeah, hopefully you check out my video for that card. So, thank you for all the support once again. Deuces for all my supporters, Bruce for all my haters. Put your comments in the comment section below down there, and take care.